Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this very special event. We have a really special guest with us today who I'm going to introduce in a moment, and she's going to be talking about her wonderful organization and the initiatives attached to it called Up Initiative Uganda. She has been working in girls and women's empowerment throughout Uganda and has really become the face of women's rights, I think, throughout the world in a very short amount of time. So we're really happy to have you here and with us. And it's a true honor to be here with you today. My name is Hannah Evans, and I am the senior analyst here at Population Connection. So I'm going to be doing intros and then leading the Q&A discussion after the presentation. So if you do have any points of discussion or questions that you'd like discussed during that time, please feel free to voice them in the chat. We've got Natalie and Marianne here as well, who are going to help field questions, and we'll do our best to get to every single one of them. All right, so I am going to read Monica's bio out loud, and I was kind of looking through preparing for this presentation and thinking maybe I would shorten the bio a little bit, but it's just so impressive that I need to read the whole thing. So we have with us today Monica Nyiraguhabwa, and she is the founder and executive director of Up Initiative Uganda. So from a young age, Monica recognized the expectations placed on her as a young girl were vastly different from those placed on her male peers, and that these expectations created barriers to her education. As she grew up, Monica realized quality education could be a way to break the cycle of systemic poverty and negative gendered health outcomes present in her community, as well as a way to disrupt patriarchy. This belief and the drive to reduce educational and reproductive health barriers for other girls in her community led her to found Up Initiative Uganda in 2012. Monica has over 10 years of experience in the areas of girls' education, reproductive rights, funding equity, community engagement, and social empowerment. She holds an MA in Education, Gender, and International Development from the University College of London, and a BA in Adult and Community Education from Makerere University. She is an Obama Africa Leader Fellow, a Perennial Fellow, a Lord's Fellow, and African Visionary Fellow. Monica, thank you so much for being here, and you can go ahead and take it away whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Hannah, for this opportunity and for such a kind introduction. And thank you so much to all those who have logged in from different parts of the world. I would like to start this conversation by saying happy IDG. I know we are having this conversation just days after the celebrations of the IDG, but I just want to congratulate all of us on this call, because I know that all of us are working in areas that are really focused around empowering and transforming communities, and more so girls and young women. So it's my pleasure and honor on behalf of Team Up Initiative Uganda to be able to share our work in terms of how we are moving the needle one girl at a time to ensure that we transform communities. So definitely the conversation is around realizing girls' rights through holistic community-driven programming. And I know that sometimes community work comes with its own challenges, but I think what we've learned in the last decade of doing this work is that holistic interventions are more sustainable. And so to start this conversation, I would like us to get a little bit more about Gala, but through a video illustration, so that those who are interfacing us for the first time get to realize what we are actually doing. Yes, so the video will be able to play, and I'll take it on after this video. Remember what you talked about? Tell us
As a young girl, I felt like a girl was not valued enough. My parents didn't believe in my education. There was this burning desire to be able to prove that you can as well invest in a girl and get as much returns as possible. I decided to co-found Girl Up in the same community that once didn't appreciate the role of the girl. We work with adolescent girls 9 to 15 years of age here in Kampala slum populations, equipping them with the social skills but they better understand themselves, better appreciate their bodies, take charge of their full lives, and tap into their leadership skills. We also have the Sewing Our Futures program that supports out-of-school girls to tap a skill in tailoring and design. Sometimes in the African context, there is a mentality of thinking that girls in particular have nothing to say. So the biggest is for us to amplify the voices of girls. For us, the most significant impact is tapping into girls' confidence and self-esteem.
Girls are strong, powerful, and confident.
This year we started working with the Intinda School of the Deaf, where we are mentoring and coaching 80 girls. How do we integrate girls who are differently abled into this program and make it work for them? It's just showing inclusiveness and saying every girl matters. The impact that I would like Girl Up to live in this world is for every girl to feel that she's valued, to know that she counts. My mother has become this champion for girls' rights. This community has seen me grow as a child and now seeing me in this position as a woman and as a leader in the same community. And so now we are moving hand in hand.
Marianne, are you on the chat there? Are you able to click the other video?
Oh, let me see. I didn't see that there was another one. This is a second one that's different.
Yes, it's in
Okay.
Teams, and I think
Oh,
that this is going to be a really great intro. So.
Okay. Okey-doke.
Perfect.
You mentioned, Jenna, this work has already been done. It started to be beginning, and she actually traveled to East Africa to connect with a remarkable woman who is creating change in her community, and she is joining with Mrs. Obama's Global Girls Alliance. She's an adoptive mother of 9 children, and as you're about to see, an inspiration to thousands more.
14-year-old Nellie is about to do something many girls her age have given up on. Every morning she leaves the tiny shack she shares with her mother and sisters and walks 2 miles to school. Nellie is unusual because in Uganda, only 2 out of 10 girls make it past the 7th grade. Nearly half are married by the time they're 18.
There's no one telling them you can't do it.
Yeah.
All they hear is that you're stupid, you can't do it.
Monica Nyiraguhabwa was told that too.
You never saw a woman drive?
Never, never.
Growing up in the slums of Kampala, even her own parents told her not to bother with school.
Boys are always given the priority. They're taught to be confident, and the girls are taught to be submissive, taught to be quiet, taught not to be loud.
Not to use their voice.
And not to use their voice.
Any money the family could scrape together went to her brother's education first.
I had my first shoe when I was 13 years old.
13 years old.
When I got those shoes, it was like the best day of my life. But I realized that really, from my own family, it's a curse to be a girl. This is wrong. Something needs to change.
So Monica turned that curse into a crusade, demanding that she go to school too and becoming the first in her family to graduate from college.
Are we together?
But instead of leaving these slums, she came back.
You went to university in London.
Yes.
You could have stayed there and
I could have stayed there, but I said no, this is not who I am. Because if more and more educated girls left, then who will do it?
So So she created Girl Up Uganda, a program that teaches all girls to demand more. At this market, they're not just cleaning up trash, they're also picking up important leadership skills. Each is teamed up with an older sister.
Someone that you can talk to, someone who says they believe in you.
She shows me how it works at Missouri Designs, where women teach each other to sew, creating beautiful dresses and handbags. Remember Nellie? Her dream is to be a fashion designer. So a seamstress takes her under her wing, showing her how to make her own dress.
What do you think?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Exposing a girl like Nellie, and you can sit on this machine. Tomorrow she'll be a fashion designer. She'll be a big deal in New York. She'll be a big deal in Uganda.
Can I wear your clothes when you come to New York?
But before that can happen, a girl once afraid to raise her hand in class will have to overcome her fears at a neighborhood fashion show.
She's going to walk on the catwalk.
She's going to walk on the catwalk and show the power that there is in girls.
A beautiful transformation that proves when given the chance, every girl can be a star. Even Nellie's mentor is moved to tears.
Why were you crying?
I'm so happy. May I have a tear of joy?
Does it make you proud?
Yeah.
And is your job done?
Not yet, it's just starting. Until every girl is touched, I'm not leaving. When I see these girls smiling, happy, being confident, being able to raise their heads to speak out, I see the world that I wanted for myself. Now I see that it's possible for them.
You did it! All right, and we are delighted to have my hero, Monica, here with this morning. We loved spending time with you at your organization. You've helped thousands of kids stay in school and dream big, including, of course, Nellie, and you're our hero. Is it amazing to be part of this?
It's very exciting for us globally to say we need to prioritize on girls' education. The time is now. We need to work as a collective to raise arms to say this is that time. We need to rally around the Global Girls Alliance and say it's time for girls. Girls now, girls are the future.
Girls are the future. Y'all can learn more about her story at today.com. Savannah and Hoda.
Jenna, thank you.
Michelle, you met her yesterday. Your eyes are welling up. It's a moment.
She is phenomenal, and she is one of millions. And that's what this alliance is intended to do, to find energy and leadership like that and lift it up and support it and fund it. One of the best parts of the alliance is the fund that will allow people. We're teaming up with GoFundMe, and people right now, if you hear about these programs, you can learn about them online, but you can help support them in real time. And that's what people like Monica need. They need resources on the ground.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. I can see the comments coming in through. Thank you so much. I can see Florence, you also logged in. Thank you so much. Florence did our first video at Gallup when she worked with a national broadcasting, TV in Uganda. So thank you for logging in. That video gives me goosebumps, but for me, it's the reassurance that when you invest in communities, there's so much you can achieve. And I mean, communities is the way to go if we are to transform whatever system that we have. It has to start with the people themselves being part of the change that they would like to see. So thank you so much for playing those videos. I'll just run to the slides right now, talking about our community-driven interventions at Up Initiative Uganda.
Does that work?
Yes, I just need next.
Okay, yeah, just let me know and click next.
Yeah, sure. So the next. Yes, so I think all of you logged in today will be wondering why Up Initiative Uganda and why adolescent girls. That video is just a testament that being a girl is is a blessing, but it definitely comes with so many challenges. And just reflecting on different stories, I believe that education is one of those tools that we can use. So when you give a girl a chance to be in school, you're actually taking her one step ahead to be able to challenge the so many intersectional barriers that affect girls just for being girls. You can imagine you're born a girl and already, you know, all these challenges are waiting for you. And more so if you're coming from communities like ours in Uganda, you know, there are all these barriers. There are social, cultural, there are health barriers, there are economic barriers, there are safety barriers, and all these barriers affect this young woman. So why girls is that we believe that having programming that looks at these barriers, programming that challenges some of these negative social, cultural beliefs and stereotypes is the only way that we can move the needle to ensure that girls evolve in a more supportive, community-driven environment. And of course, we know that why girls is because as a girl begins to grow into an adult, there is just so much that is expected of her. So it's important that before everyone else has an opinion on a girl, she's supported with accurate information and knowledge, especially knowledge around her sexuality. Because COVID has taught us that so many girls got pregnant. And I think it was a global challenge, but it was twice as much in communities where I come from. And this is because most of these girls probably do not really have information around their sexual and reproductive health and rights. And that's why as an organization, we really feel that a girl understanding her sexuality at a very tender age is very important for her to know that once she gets into adolescence, there's so much that can change. So having that knowledge is critical for her to make informed choices in terms of the relationships that she creates with boys, being able to say no when she's harassed, being able to speak out when she faces, you know, violence. And so you find that our programming is predominantly girls. We speak girls' language at all times. And again, over this last couple of years, we've learned that we need a multifaceted approach to being able to work around the issues of girls. So next. Again, because we really believe in the power of education to transform the lives of girls, our approach, part of our approach is really school-centered. So we do have programming in schools. And when we started this work, it was just the adolescent girls program. But over the years, we've learned that this girl doesn't exist in a vacuum alone. This girl exists in the same community. And we've realized along the way that it's only when all stakeholders in communities are part of the conversation that we can achieve more sustainable change in ensuring that this girl has information for her own self-empowerment, but also information that helps her question, information that helps her challenge, information that helps her, you know, speak out for herself and move to spaces that no one could have expected. So our adolescent girls program is really the hub of the empowerment program, where it sets the foundation for knowledge sharing and personal empowerment. We believe as an institution that you cannot start teaching or sharing information about things around human rights or violence before you actually talk to a girl to appreciate herself as a girl. Because growing up, we are being told you're either too small, too short, too big, and all those, you know, sentiments affect how we relate, affect how we engage in school. So it's very important that in this girl-centered programming, the person comes first before we can even look at all the other topical areas that are important for her own empowerment. So the Adolescent Girls Program is that program that focuses on the self-empowerment. And the conversations in this program is more around the girl, herself, appreciating herself, appreciating her fears, appreciating her surroundings. And then the program evolves further to talk about the different issues that they face, issues around violence, issues around understanding that they need to set goals for their lives. They need to dream. They have the opportunity to dream. So that's our Adolescent Girl Program. It's a year-long program. And of course, we work in partnership with schools because we know that we can't do it alone, but we can work with teachers, work with parents to ensure that the knowledge and the sharings in these spaces are appreciated. And of course, these different stakeholders support us along the way. We do have the Big Sisters Network program, which is another exciting program because we've always been asked, after this girl has been supported throughout the year, what happens? You'll all agree with me that mentorship takes different stages, that as an adolescent, there's a certain kind of mentorship or knowledge you need. As you grow into a much bigger adult, there's more support that you need. And so this is the Big Sisters Network, because again, we want to see that beyond the girl understanding herself, she's able to use that knowledge, that experience, that motivation to support other girls. So we are seeing our own girls who have gone through the program become more like role models and peer mentors to the younger girls. So that's eventually we are building a movement where each one is a keeper of the other, but in terms of sharing useful knowledge, in terms of just being there for them. And of course, part of our Big Sisters Network is what we always organize, what we call the Big Sister Camp, which is something that every girl needs to tap into. So this is just a space for them to tap into more leadership skills and knowledge and understanding the issues around advocacy and how they can really share this knowledge beyond themselves, but into global spaces. We've, over the years, seen the girls we mentored 5 years ago appear on global platforms or global spaces or global conversations. And for us, it's a testimony that mentorship is a journey and we need to keep doing what we do. But also in terms of our programming, we do have the Mazuri Designs Hub, which is an out-of-school program that supports adolescents. Again, so many adolescents dropped out of school. This program supports adolescents to be able to learn entrepreneurial skills. And we know that part of the causes of violence, for example, is things around economics, around economic income. So you find that whatever we do with young women, there should be an element of ensuring that they're able to make their own monies. There is no way a woman will say no to abuse if she's dependent on the money, for example, that her partner is giving her. There are high chances that she'll stay in an abusive relationship because probably she's looking out for the shelter, she's looking out for the food. So for us, it's about how do we make sure that young women have economic independence and how are young women supported to ensure that they have good livelihood, which ultimately translates to them being able to take their children to school. And of course, we do have the Boy Champions program because we say that over the years, we've learned that for a girl's full empowerment, she exists in a community that has male and female on all the other genders. How do we ensure that we bring on board boys more as allies and champions of change, boys who will be supportive of this empowerment, boys who are going to look at girls as partners, and not as subordinate colleagues in the space. So the Boy Champion program complements the Adolescent Girls program. And we believe that it's only when we share this knowledge with the boys as well that we'll be able to move the needle closer to ensuring that girls operate with autonomy, girls have agency, and girls are supported within their own communities to thrive. So just reflecting again on those holistic interventions, you'll agree with me that with what I've shared, it's a testament that these programs is a pipeline for mentorship and autonomy building. And of course, mentorship again is, it's a journey. Even right now, when everyone thinks, you've made it, I'm still being mentored, and I look forward to being mentored. So it's the same, even for our programming, it's the same for the girls that we are working with. But also through these programmings, is that we recognize the diversity of lived experiences of girls and young women. And of course, when we recognize that diversity, we are able to operate in a way that is cognizant of the differences, of the emerging changes that we need to adapt with to ensure that we respond to the issues of girls along the way, but also just recognizing the diversities helps us to scale deeper, because it helps us appreciate what is coming out and what more can we do. So our programming really is one that started just as a girls program, but you can see that we've scaled deeper to be able to understand the unique needs of different groups of girls. And the first video showed, we also work with girls who are differently abled. Again, they do have unique needs, and our programming is able to think through those and also to see how do we move the needle to support girls for who they are, whether they are differently abled or they are, the other girls that everyone looks at. I think for us, it's just being able to reflect along the way in this work and just saying what more can we do to make sure that girls and young women realize their rights at different levels of mentorship with us. So again, the conversation is around community driven. And I'll just say that community driven is, anything community driven is very sustainable. That I can attest to it. And of course, so why do we really focus on community driven programming? So, and what does this mean to us? What does community driven programming mean to us? And how do we, or someone on the call is wondering, how do you create programming that is community driven? And what does it mean anyways? For us, community driven means that you're able to listen. So your programming is able to adapt to the needs of the community and not to the needs of just the organization in terms of what the organization wants to achieve in its strategy. But community driven means that irrespective of your strategy, you're able to reflect back, you're able to evaluate your direction and say, are we meeting the needs of the people that we are serving? So it really calls for someone to have that listening ear, that you're always moving, but ensuring that you listen to what communities are saying. Again, community driven to us means that there is youth engagement and investment. Girl Up has a team of 30 young people running its programs in Kampala, but we have over 300 community stakeholders that support the operationalization of our activities on the ground. And these are young people. So if we are talking about adolescents and young people, then it's important that in our community-driven approaches, we create mechanisms where these people are able to give back to their communities. These people are supported to relay the messages to their different groups. So community-driven for us means that there should be engagement of the girls and the youth in these spaces. Again, as we engage them, we are investing in them because we want to have more and more champions of change in these communities. Again, community-driven programming means that your stakeholders are active, that you engage your stakeholders. You're not just having pen and paper saying we work with governments. It's important to appreciate and understand what exactly do you do with governments. We work with local leaders. Just being clear in terms of what's the role that the local leaders actually play. And again, when stakeholders are brought into the conversation and actively participate, then there are things that will work out. For example, with the lockdown in Uganda, the fact that we worked with different stakeholders, right from government structures, community structures, it was easy for us to continue operating even when everyone else was told, to shut down. It was easy for us to continue responding to the needs of our communities. Again, to continue, community-driven means that it means that you respect the time and the contribution of all those that you engage. Because I know certain times as organizations, we never reflect what is in for the communities in our programming. Sometimes you're looking at programming from a perspective of it's us giving, but the reality is there's so much we get from the communities that we serve. So it's important for us to be aware and cognizant of, what is it that is in for those people that are invested in the programming as well. Next. Yes, so I kept it short and simple so that we have an opportunity to hear from all of you. Any questions, any suggestions that you'd love to share. So we decided to keep it short and precise. Yeah, thank you, and over to you, Anna.
Thank you so much, Monica. That was really, really amazing to listen to. And again, I'm just such a fan of this organization and your work. So thank you for taking the time to talk to us today and to help us kind of understand the scope of your work and your approach, the holistic approach, which is, as an organization, something that we really advocate for, is to recognize things aren't happening in silos and to simultaneously try to address social, economic, and environmental needs within societies and within communities. So it's just so great to have you here and to be able to show us that concept in action. So I have a couple of questions here. Your mission says to create a gender equal world where girls thrive and lead. To build a vibrant movement of girls and young women through transformative leadership, sexual and reproductive health education, and skills development. And I was just wondering if you could expand a little bit more on why access to sexual and reproductive health education is so important for the communities in which you work, and how that plays into development overall and helping people really succeed in life.
Thank you. So why we really prioritize on sexual and reproductive health and rights education and services is because we know that Uganda, I think, is the third in sub-Saharan Africa having the highest cases of teenage pregnancies, and the cases of early child marriage are equally high. And when you ask yourself, where is the problem? These are girls in school and girls out of school. So when you ask yourself, where is the problem? You realize that in communities where we come from, talking about sexuality is a taboo, that parents themselves do not want to take responsibility to share with their children. I mean, the involvement of a girl from being a child into a young adult. So many parents shy away from that conversation. And so what happens is that many girls will be able to confide in their peers. So the danger is a girl confiding to a peer who doesn't have accurate information and operating from a guesswork approach. So you realize that if we are to address the issues of teenage pregnancies in Africa, in Uganda, in the world, it's important that adolescents have that information. Even as we are scared as parents talk about sex, to our children, it's important to start opening up the conversation so that when a girl is evolving, is undergoing these body changes, she understands exactly what it is, and she embraces it as a young woman. If a girl is having challenges around her menstruation, for most of us, menstruation is very painful, including myself. So how do we make sure that we prepare the mind of this girl to embrace, this femininity and the realities of menstruation? So for us, sexual and reproductive health rights for us is like the benchmark, that if we address sexual and reproductive health rights challenges, then we are addressing educational outcomes. We are addressing the issues of ensuring that many girls don't drop out of school, because for most of them, it's because of pregnancy. So if we can start with the knowledge, then SRH, as they call it, helps us solve, the barriers that one faces to be able to complete school. So for us, it's really the source, because it's something that we can't run away from. So it's important that our adolescents actually have accurate information, but also important that they have information that they can use to support other adolescents, so that we can see more girls attain school or complete school or celebrate themselves being adolescents, and all the changes that come with adolescence.
Absolutely, thank you. And also, as you were talking about the rates of teen pregnancies throughout Uganda, I was remembering too that Uganda is such a young country and it's got a really quickly growing population. So there's a real opportunity and a real need as well to make sure that everybody has access to these resources, and that people can choose when and how to start a family, and that they also have opportunities to participate in the economy, to become educated. It could be a really auspicious period of time for Uganda. So it really speaks to the importance of your work. There's a follow-up question here, just a small one to add on to your conversation, asking about access to contraceptives and birth control. In addition to the education, is access also a barrier or an issue, or are you guys working in that, or how does that work?
Access is definitely a barrier in Uganda, because talking about sexuality education, again, is something that is misunderstood by different people, including adults, including development practitioners. Unfortunately, it's something that is misunderstood. So you find that access continues to be a challenge. However, through our different programming, we are ensuring that we work with health service providers to ensure that when these young people come to these health facilities, they are supported. Because again, access certain times is beyond the individual, but it has to do with the health service providers who, when a young person walks up to a health center, already they are having judgments and asking them, what are they doing? Why are they asking for example, birth control? So you find that we've done a lot of work with health service providers for them to be more empathetic and having the listening spirit when young people come, because you realize that there are so many cases of unsafe abortions. Again, Uganda is a very strict country, but again, the law also allows for when could a safe abortion actually happen. But you find that even a health provider already has biases and stereotypes and all this. So working with those health service providers to recognize and appreciate that young people need to be supported. So you find that young people above the age of 18 are actually able to access, this birth control products from the different health centers. But it really takes a lot of courage for most of them to be able to do that. But again, the conversation continues, because we normally ask our government stakeholders that would we rather invest huge budgets in post-abortion care, or would we rather invest in ensuring that young people have access to these products and are able to utilize them and avoid scenarios where they are compromised to unsafe abortions for those that are pushed into that angle. But again, it remains a challenge, but working through the different stakeholders, the conversation is actually moving in that angle as well.
Wonderful. And you were talking about the need to, not only work with the government and different organizations to increase access, but to train people on the importance of like empathy and compassion in approaching this issue and really understanding one another, rather than kind of succumbing to the institutionalized gender norms that are very divisive and oppressive. And one thing that I noticed right away looking at your website, and I see a question here that's related to it, is that you have a program focused on boys and mentorships for boys, and I think it's called the Boy Champion Project. And we get a lot of questions working in the family planning field of like, well, what about men? We need to make sure that men are included in these conversations and in this development work. And so I'd love to know how that program started, how it's going, if there's any resistance you're feeling or successes you want to talk about. Love to learn more.
Yes, so we also learned along the way that if we are working in schools and want to create a holistic school approach that responds, for example, to sexual and gender-based violence in the school environment, we recognize that in most cases, the perpetrators are either male teachers or the adolescent boys themselves. So we realized that our impact, is not as sustainable. It's short-lived. It's affecting our impact. And so we said, what can we do to ensure that we address or we create more inclusive, safe environments for our girls in school? And that's why the conversation of let boys get on board started. And of course, we engage boys selfishly, like I would say that in capitals, selfishly, not because it's our niche, but because we know that they could be allies to ensure that our girls actually are safe in these environments. And we involve male teachers or teachers in general, but male teachers, because you realize that for most of the violence that happens in schools, it's either the boys or the male teachers. So it's until, they are brought into the conversation, it's until you bring them on board, but strategically again, because I know that for sure that when you put a boy and a girl in the same space, there are chances that the young man or the young boy may take over this space that you're trying to create for the girl. So it's important to be very strategic in terms of how you engage, males. But definitely even just pointing to the issue of family planning. I mean, if we are to embrace family planning, it's important that men equally understand why it's important to have family planning. And it's not just left as a burden for a woman to figure it out. Because at the end of the day, both parties have to plan for their families and know what's good for their families as a couple. So you find that I think we've achieved more positive results engaging them. And that's why we love to work with boys and men, but we are very intentional in terms of how we do it. We don't do it in a way that, again, they'll come into the girls' space and take over, because we don't want to move 10 steps backward from where we are coming from, but we engage them knowing that they are allies to creating the environments that we want to see for our girls and women. And definitely in the beginning, people were like, those are things for women. If you talk about family planning, those are things for women. Like, no, you too have a responsibility in this conversation. For example, speaking to our parents, we engage parents as well, both male and female. And you realize that for most of our parents meeting, it's mainly the women that come. Only few men come, because men, again, from the communities I'm coming from, feel that anything to do with a girl, you should talk to the mother. But there could be things that both the mother and the father need to be aware of, so that as a family, they support this girl holistically. So I'd feel that the outcomes, the return on investment of engaging men and boys are actually higher and more sustainable, although I do say that it has to be done strategically.
Right. So could you, I'm just curious. So you said originally it was a little bit difficult because men were like, well, I don't want anything to do with this. It has nothing to do with me. So how did you convince these like people within the community and boys, and what is the way to kind of bridge that gap culturally and to create something different?
So what we did actually, that's a good question. What we did actually was to be able to train a cadre of male change agents, because it's very difficult for a young woman to walk up to a group of young men and start telling them about all the stuff we are talking about. But just imagine when you work with a smaller group of men who become champions and they're the ones leading the conversations with fellow men. So that's how it's been able to work. Just like in the schools where we work, the female, what we call ourselves coaches, the female coaches, the female work with the female, the male work with the male, so that the girl, when a girl is being mentored by another girl, they see that as more close than when you tell them it's a man mentoring. So in the same spirit, for men, especially patriarchal men, for them to challenge their own beliefs, we've worked through those same men, a smaller group, and supported them to spread the word out. Just like we've worked with religious and cultural leaders. It's very difficult for me and my team of female, colleagues to go and speak to a male religious leader challenging, some of the practices that are hindering gender equality. But if we worked with a smaller group of religious and cultural leaders, supported them to understand the issues as they are, then those are the champions that go out and it really works so well. So it's important to identify a group that you really take through a period of time training and mentoring them to understand the issues, to challenge their own stereotypes. Then when they go out to speak with fellow men, you're actually building a stronger movement.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. I just love the holistic approach and really your emphasis on looking at people as people and realizing the importance of empowerment and respect and recognizing that people want a voice and to be heard. That's amazing. I have a question here asking more generally about the quality of education. There's an anonymous attendee from Latin America who's saying that the issue is, one of the main issues is quality of education rather than just access. And sometimes that the education can sort of reinforce harmful gender norms or whatever. So could you speak to that a little bit and what that journey has been like throughout Uganda and the places that you work?
Yes, so talking about education, Girl Up approaches it from a more inclusive type of education. Sometimes when you talk about education, everyone looks at the formal education. Definitely the quality of education is still on a learning journey in Uganda, where I'm coming from, but a lot of steps have been taken again. And of course, the quality of education also depends on individuals being able to afford. So it goes again to affordability and who is accessing that kind of education. But for the communities that we serve, they do access basic education. And for us in this journey of social empowerment, one step at a time. One step at a time means that for now we are looking at, can the girls actually access this basic education? It may have challenges, we will get there. Can these girls complete this basic education? And therefore our programming comes to say that this basic education could be having challenges. How do we design programs that help bridge the gap between the basic and the quality education? And so you find that our empowerment programs come in handy to support, to build onto those skills. Because, for example, for basic education, where I come from, it could be just about grades, you know, going to school and passing all those subjects. And here Gallup comes and says, we need to formulate clubs in school that will support girls to tap into their confidence, will support girls to be able to speak out, will support girls to use their talents, whether it's of writing, whether talents of singing. And so the program comes in handy to support what we would call basic, to make it more of quality. So, and again, education is also informal. And so COVID taught us that so many girls in our communities in Uganda dropped out and didn't return to school after the pandemic. For some of them, they got pregnant, but for others, the pandemic, you know, crushed the incomes of their parents, and they're unable to take back all these children to school. And when you look at the populations of Uganda, the fertility rate in Uganda is 6 to 7 children per family. So you can imagine the impact of the pandemic vis-a-vis the affordability of quality education or even basic education. And therefore our programming comes in to recognize again the listening angle of what we talked about, understand that actually so many girls are out of school. What do we do to ensure that they acquire informal education? And that's why we have the Mazuri Designs Hub. The Mazuri Designs Hub is that which gives the opportunity to girls who have not gone through the formal education system to tap into skills in fashion and design. And this year we did get certification from the Directorate of Industrial Training that our girls get to sit national examinations. They get to be credited nationally. So for me, to respond to that question again, for us to attain quality education as a country may take us years, but as development practitioners in this space, as we listen to the educational needs, we design programs that try to address those gaps so that even children who go to these basic schools or children who are out of school, at the end of the day, acquire an education, acquire the mentorship. Our role is to position these children to make sure they tap into spaces that can help them grow beyond these communities and tap into more, more spaces that can lead them up to, being the best versions of themselves. So it's a journey.
Wow, thank you. Each one of your responses is just so inspiring and empowering. Thank you so much. And yeah, just to follow up briefly on what you said, I loved in your presentation how you described the importance of understanding the diversity of people's lived experiences and really focusing on the individual and people, right? And then I think you had a phrase saying depth over reach, right? Just really going in and making sure that, people are holistically approached and empowered. That will lead to many other benefits and is probably foundational to the work. So it's 8:01 right now. Well, my time, much later everywhere else, I'm sure, but we're going to go ahead and end now. Thank you so much, Monica, for being here today. Again, it is such an honor to have you with us and to get to hear about the wonderful work that you're doing in Uganda, and I'm sure very soon throughout the world. So if anybody would like to get in touch with Monica, we can share her contact info, and for any questions we didn't get to, expect an email soon with some follow-up answers. So thank you very much, everyone, again, and have a wonderful Friday and weekend. And thanks again, Monica.
Thank you.